Hello, students. How are you all? I hope you are fit and fine at your home. Dear students, today we shall study one of the important chapters of Class 10 Geography. Lesson number 3 Physiography and Drainage. Students, in the last lecture, we have studied Physiography of India. Now, in this second video, we are going to study the Physiography of Brazil. Students, as India has 5 major physiographic divisions that are the Himalayas, the North Indian Plains, the Peninsula, the coastal plain, and the island groups. In the same way, we are going to study the physiography of Brazil in this video. Okay, students, so without wasting time, let's get started with the physical features of Brazil. Dear students, let's try to understand the map of Brazil. Students, if you once understand the map, then you will quickly understand all the things. So, here, let me tell you some important things of the Brazil. In the first chapter, we have studied the location of Brazil. We have studied that the equator passes through Brazil, as well as Tropic of Capricorn also passes through Brazil. Okay, students, here in this map, clearly we can see that most of the region is occupied by Amazon River Basin and Brazilian Highland. Okay, students, as well as the Guyana Highlands, Amazon River Basin, and Brazilian Highlands. Here we can see in the north of Brazil, the Amazon River Basin as well as Guyana Highlands are there. In the east and south, we can see Brazilian Highlands, and a lot of rivers are there. Some large rivers are there and some short rivers are there. We can see Amazon is the largest river here, as well as Parana and Paraguay. These are the rivers flowing towards southwest and meeting to Argentina. Okay, students, here we can say that Brazil is surrounded by Uruguay, Argentina, Paraguay, Bolivia, Peru, Colombia, and on the north side, Venezuela, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guyana. Students, on the north side, we have North Atlantic Ocean, and on the south side, we have South Atlantic Ocean. Student, we can see the northern coastal line stretches from Amapá to Rio Grande do Norte. Eastern coastal line stretches from east to south. Okay, students, this much information is very important. As well as in the Brazilian highland, the most of the region is occupied by Brazilian highlands. Here we can see the great escarpment. Now, students, let's try to understand the physiographic regions or physical features of Brazil. See, student, first of all, let's try to understand. In Brazil, a large part is occupied by highlands, plateaus, and small mountains. Here, we see no high and extending mountains as we see in India, very high mountains as well as extending mountains. Okay, students, for example, Trans Himalaya, Greater Himalaya, Lesser Himalaya, and Shivaliks. But here in Brazil, we do not see high as well as extending mountains, as well as no wide plains except for the northern Amazon basin and in the southwest along the upper parts of the Paraguay basin. Students, here in the map you can see that most of the part is occupied by the Amazon river basin, and here only we can see the plains, as well as we can see the plains in the southwest along the upper parts of Paraguay basin. Okay, students, here you can see in the map. Coastal plains are also restricted in their expanse. Student, in India, we have seen that western coastal area as well as eastern coastal area or plains we can say. Eastern coastal area or plains of India were larger than the western coastal plains. Okay, but here in Brazil we see the coastal plains are restricted in their expanse. Okay, student, have you understood this much? Very good. Now see, student, one by one we are going to study the first one, that is the highlands. Just now I have told you about the highlands. The second one, the great escarpment. The third one, the coastal region. The fourth one, the plains. And the fifth one, the island groups. Okay, so these are the major divisions of Brazil: the highlands, the great escarpment, the coastal region, the plains, and the island groups. Now, student, let's learn one by one in detail. First of all, let's learn the highlands. See, student, it is an area of high and mountainous land plateaus. Okay, what do you mean by highland, students? So, highland is an area of high or mountainous land plateaus. Students, these highlands are not too much high as we have in India high mountains, but these are not too much high lands or mountains we can say. See, students, the Brazilian highlands or plateaus are extensive geographical region covering most of the eastern, southern and central part of Brazil. In all, approximately half of the country's land area or some 4,50,000 square kilometer and with elevation 2,891 meter. Yes, student, just now I have told you most of the region is occupied by highlands or plateaus in Brazil, and it covers most of the eastern, southern and central part of Brazil. Okay, student, you can see here the region which is shaded with the yellow color, that is Brazilian highland. The southern Brazil is occupied by the extensive plateau. Here in the map you can see. Now, student, the core part, it means the important part of the Brazilian highland. Brazilian highlands and Guyana highlands together form the core of South American continent. Yes, student, here just now I have told you in Brazil, the Brazilian highland and Guyana highland, Brazilian highland in the east, south and west part of Brazil and Guyana highlands in the north together form the core part of South American continent. Okay, students, now see, the main part of Guyana highland is in the Venezuela. Student, Venezuela is one of the neighboring country at the northern part of Brazil. So here the main part of Guyana highland is included in the Venezuela. It extends up to French Guyana. Student, here in the map you can see it covers the states of Roraima, Para and Amapá. Okay, in the map you can see I am highlighting it in the north side. Okay, students, now lower part of the highlands. See, student, the highest peak of Brazil, Pico de Neblina, is 3014 meter high and lies on the borders between Brazil and Venezuela. Students, in the picture you can see on the northern part of Brazil, we can see here Guyana highlands, and below that Pico de Neblina is one of the highest peak of the Brazil, and the height of this Pico de Neblina is 3014 meter high. Okay, students, have understood? Very good. Now let's try to understand further more about the altitude. Okay, see, student, regions to the east and the south of Brazilian highlands have an altitude of more than 1000 meter. Student, here you can see the eastern part of Brazilian highlands as well as south part of Brazilian highland have an altitude of more than 1000 meter. But the students, in other parts of Brazilian highland, the altitude is in between 500 to 1000 meter. Now students, let's try to understand the slope of highlands. Okay, this is very important students. Question can be asked on such points. It gradually slopes towards north and slopes are not very steep. Students, these highlands slopes towards north. You can see in the map so that you can understand. Okay, but these slopes are not very steep student. Steep means not long as well as sharp. Okay, now the tributaries of Amazon. This is also very important point student. The tributaries of Amazon flowing through this region make rapid and waterfalls. Students, these rivers flow very rapidly as well as it creates or forms waterfalls here. We know that if the water flows rapidly, then waterfalls form. Okay, students, the slopes are steep but not abrupt. The slopes of river are steep but not abrupt. Okay, students. Now, student, let's learn about the rivers. Okay, a number of rivers take off from the terminal portion of the highlands and flow northward to meet Atlantic Ocean. Students, we know that at the north side we have in Brazil North Atlantic Ocean, and most of the rivers flow towards the northern part. Okay, and the terminal portion of the highland makes the river to flow towards northern side of Brazil, or it flows towards northwards to meet Atlantic Ocean. Okay, major rivers like Uruguay, Paraguay, and Paraná from the southern slopes of highlands and enter Argentina. Students, in the southern western part of Brazil, we can see here some of the major rivers are flowing. For example, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Paraná from the southern slopes of highlands. Okay, so it flows from the southern slope of highland and enter in the Argentina. Student, here we can see the rivers Paraguay, Uruguay, and Paraná are entering Argentina. Okay? Yes. Now, its slope towards the east is steep and it appears in the form of an escarpment. Student, here the slope means the slope of highlands. The slope of highland is towards the east and it is steep. Let me tell you the meaning of escarpment. Okay? Now, student, we shall study the second major physical division of Brazil, that is the Great Escarpment. Student, first of all, let's try to understand what is mean by escarpment. Escarpment is a long, steep slope, especially one at the edge of plateau, separating areas of land at different heights. It occupies a very small area. Student, in the map you can see the escarpment. The Great Escarpment in Brazil is a large geographical formation that runs along much of the eastern coast of Brazil, south of the city of Salvador. The escarpment runs along the central and south Atlantic coasts of Brazil, rising sharply and separating the highland plateau from the coast. The escarpment rises steeply from the coastal plain to as much as 9,000 feet, that is 2,700 meters in height. The top of the escarpment forms a drainage divide between the interior and the coastal plains. Apart from the São Francisco River, most streams flow into the central basin rather than to the coast. The escarpment defines the eastern edge of the Serra do Mar and other mountain ranges. But the nature of its slope and the effect it has on the climate makes a separate physiographic region. Student, as we have Himalaya in India and Himalaya plays very important role in climatic changes. Okay, in the same way here, this great escarpment plays an important role in climate change. It separate the physiographic region. Okay, students, now because of the escarpment, the eastern side of highland is demarcated or separated. Yes, we can understand here, because of the escarpment we can see here the eastern side of the highland is separated. Okay, understood students? Very good. Now students, let's try to learn about altitude. Students, the altitude of the escarpment is 790 meter. The altitude of the escarpment is 790 meter in the eastern side of Highlands. It is very steep from Sao Paulo to Porto Alegre. Okay, the escarpment acts as a barrier to the southeast trade winds, giving rise to the rain shadow area in the northeastern part of the highlands. Student, in India we can see the Sahyadri mountain range, which creates a barrier for the monsoon winds. Okay, and because of that we have heavy rain in the Konkan division, and when the monsoon winds moves towards the western Maharashtra, we see the rainfall decreases. In the same way here, the escarpments acts as a barrier to the southeast trade winds. Okay students, so here the trade winds flows from southeast as well as northeast student, but here southeast trade winds giving rise to rain shadow area in the northern eastern part. Okay students, so why does it give rise to the rain shadow area? Because when the trade winds flows after escarpment, okay, the rainfall decreases, and because of that it gives rise to the rain shadow area in the northeastern part of highland. Students, the region to the north, this area is called drought quadrilateral. Okay students, why it is called as a drought quadrilateral? Because this region receives 15 to 30 inches annual rainfall, and in comparison to other places or the regions where the region receives 40 to 70 inches annual rainfall. Okay students, so because of less precipitation in this area, this region is called as drought quadrilateral. Okay students, have understood? Very good. Now students, let's learn about the coast of Brazil. In the beginning I have told you about the coast. It has a coastal line of about 7400 kilometer. Students, if you remember, India also blessed with 7500 kilometer coastal line. It is divided into two parts, namely northern and eastern coast. As in India, the coastal area is divided into two parts, that is western coastal line and eastern coastal line or plains we can say. Now let's try to understand the extent of the coast. The northern coast extends from Amapá province in the north to Rio Grande do Norte in the east. Students, in the map you can see clearly so that you can understand. This is called as the North Atlantic coast. The eastern coast extends towards the south. Okay students, now let's try to understand the characteristics of the coast. The northern coast is characterized by mouths of many rivers including Amazon. Yes student, here we can see the northern coast is characterized by the mouths of many rivers including Amazon. Here we can see the longest river is Amazon. Students, this is low lying region. On this coast lie Marzo Island and Sao Marco Bays. Student, here in the map you can see that the on this coast Marzo Island and Sao Marco Bays are located. Mazo is a large coast island located between the mouths of river Amazon and river Tocantins. Student, here we can see that Mazo is the large coast which is located in between the Amazon river and Tocantins river. Okay. Now students, let's learn about the eastern coast. The eastern coast receives large number of smaller rivers. The only major river which meets the Atlantic Ocean here is São Francisco. Students, if you remember, in 6th standard we have studied about São Francisco river. Now students, let's try to understand some of the important characteristics of the Brazilian coast. Okay, the Brazilian coast is characterized by a large number of beaches and sand dunes. Dunes means bank. Now student, here the Brazilian coast is protected in some area by coral reef. Student, what do you mean by coral reef? Earlier we have studied while studying the physiography of India. Okay, coral reef is an underwater ecosystem characterized by reef building corals. Marine invertebrates we find in a more quantity here. Student, reef sand, bar, bank and atoll islands. Students, I have told you the meaning of atoll also in the previous video. Atoll means it is a ring shaped island. Okay student, have you understood? So here in Brazil we see beautiful beaches with the coral reef. Now let's try to understand the plains now. See, the plains are restricted, limited, confined to two areas, namely the Amazon Basin in the north and Paraguay-Paraná source region in the southwest. Student, here in the picture we can see the most of the region is occupied by the Amazon region, and here we see the major plains, as well as we can see the plains in the southwest area, that is in the source region of Paraguay and Paraná. Okay, now Amazon plains are lying between the two highlands, form the largest plain land, that are Guyana and Brazilian highlands. It is lying in the northern parts of Brazil, generally slope eastward. Student, the slope of northern plain is eastward. Remember it, that it slopes towards eastward. Now let's try to understand the extension. Okay, Amazon basin is quite wide in the west, about 1300 kilometer, and it narrows towards east. Student, in the picture you can see Amazon basin is quite wide in the west side, and when it goes towards the eastward it becomes narrower. Okay, now the width of the Amazon basin, its width is minimum where the Guyana highlands and Brazilian highlands come closer, 240 kilometer. As the river reaches Atlantic, the width increases. Okay student, here if you observe the map, then you can understand that on the west side we can see the width of the Amazon basin is more. When it goes towards the eastwards, we see it becomes narrower. Again, when we see that when it reaches to the Atlantic Ocean, the width has increased. Okay student, now let's try to understand some characteristics of the Amazon basin. These are mostly forested areas and largely inaccessible due to frequent flooding and dense undergrowth. Now let's try to understand one of the important characteristics of Amazon basin. Most of the Amazon plains are covered by tropical rainforest. Student, tropical rainforest means these rainforests are rainforests that occur in areas of tropical rainforest climate in which there is no dry season. All months have an average precipitation of at least 60 mm. Okay, it is the world's largest tropical rainforest, famed for its biodiversity. It crisscrossed by thousands of rivers, including the powerful Amazon. Students, here we will study some of other plains now. The other plains are located to the southwestern part of the highland. They form the source region of Paraguay and Paraná River. The source region of Paraguay slopes towards the south and the source region of Paraná slopes towards the southwest. Students, remember the slope of Paraguay is towards south and the source region of Paraná slopes towards southwest. Okay, it is very important, students. Okay. Now, pantanal. Student, what is pantanal? Pantanal is one of the world's largest wetland. Land consisting of marshes, swamps or saturated land, we can say. Students, in the map you can see it. It lies towards the southwest part of highland areas. Okay. It is a region of swamps. A swamp is a forested wetland. Swamps are considered to be transition zone because both land and water play a role in creating this environment. Swamps are vary in size and are located all around the world. The water of the swamp may be fresh water, brackish water, and marshes in northwestern Mato Grosso do Sul in Brazil, and it extends into Argentina too. Now, students, let's learn about islands of the Brazil. Student, as we have in India, Lakshadweep Island and Andaman Nicobar Island in the Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal, respectively. Okay, in the same way, here in Brazil, the islands in Brazil can be classified into coastal islands and marine islands. Most of them have formed due to deposition. Student, marine islands were a part of the mainland. They are more than 300 kilometers away from the mainland in the Atlantic Ocean. Students, these are mostly rocky and they are the top of submerged mountains. The islands near the coast of the South Atlantic Ocean are coral islands and they are called atolls. Okay, students, here one more important island is, that is Marazzo. At the mouth of Amazon and Tocantins we see Mazo Island, okay, which is the largest island. Okay, student, have you understood? Very good. So, dear students, here we have tried to understand the physiographic divisions of Brazil, that are the highlands, the great escarpment, the coastal region, the plains, and the islands groups. Students, in the next video, we are going to study the drainage system of India as well as Brazil. Okay, students, if you have found this video useful to you, if you have liked it, then do not forget to like it, subscribe it, and share it to your friends. Thank you, students, and be connected to receive more and more such videos. Be studious, be thoughtful, respect your teachers and parents. Thank you. Bye.